My favourite products to share with you are the ones that are new and different. I love discovering new audio bargains to share with you, or amazing pieces of innovation and high quality sound. At the more affordable end of the scale, I love finding gems like the Shit Audio Mimir, or the SMSL Raw HA1, or the FiiO K17. Products that either vastly outperform their price, or that are exceptional at their price due to the features, functions, and of course sound quality that they deliver. When Ayashida offered to send me the new SMSL DO400 DAC and headphone amp for review, I said yes, on the understanding that they have no influence over this video, of course, and in the hope that it might be one of those exceptional products. After all, it uses the new flagship DAC from ESS. It has both I2S and AES inputs, as well as all of the regular type inputs, and it can deliver a solid 3 watts of power into 32 ohm headphones. But I made a mistake. You see, I like to review new products. And yes, technically, the DO400 is relatively new from SMSL. But also technically, we've seen this product before in the form of the Loxgy D60. These two are so similar that they might as well be the exact same product in different cases with different brands on the front. I haven't taken the time to specifically examine the circuit boards in detail, but I can tell you that these both use the exact same DAC chip, and they have the exact same power output, and they also cost about the same. The DO400 is $499 US, and the Loxgy D60, when I last checked, was $460 US. And by the way, I'm not judging the similarity of these based only on the fact that they use the same DAC chip and have the same power output. If you look through all of the features and all of the specs, it's hard to believe that these aren't identical. And then when you listen to them, it gets even harder still. Now it's worth noting that both of these products have designs that are very nice. Even if they're similar but different, they are excellent designs. And I think I maybe slightly prefer the look of the DO400. But what that means is that this video is now less of a review of the DO400 and more of just a notification that it exists. Consider it a reminder that both of these products exist, and that both the DO400 and the Loxgy D60 are both good products for their price. The DO400 delivers very good quality sound as a DAC and headphone amp, and it can deliver even better sound if you take the audio out of it using it as a DAC and feed it onto an external high quality headphone amp or into a speaker system. I'd describe its sound as generally crisp and clean, but not clinical or sterile. It's just not as smooth as a DAC in a similar price range, such as the SMSL Raw DAC 1, which is just a DAC. The soundstage from the DO400 is wide and with good separation, but it doesn't deliver you a great deal of depth or layering in the sound. It's a solid DAC and headphone amp. And if you want even more detail about the sound of the DO400, I'll pin my review of the Loxgy D60 at the end of this one, so you can dive a bit deeper because, as I said, they're interchangeable. But coming back to the mistake that I said I made. The mistake that I made was to accept a product in for review that I had essentially already reviewed. But it gets a bit worse. Not only did I accept the DO400 from Ayashida, and thank you to them, at the same time, I also accepted the SMSL AS400 direct from SMSL, and they have no influence over this video either. The AS400 is a $279 US DAC, headphone amp, and speaker amp. It uses the AK43131 DAC chip and the Infineon MA5332 Class D amp chip. And guess what? It's almost identical to what the SMSL Raw HA1 already does and is. Almost. The Raw HA1 cost $250 US when I reviewed it. The AS400 now costs $279 US. However, unlike the apparent lack of difference between the SMSL DO400 and the Loxgy D60, going from the SMSL Raw HA1 to the SMSL AS400, there is actually a feature and function difference. In other words, you are getting something more than just a different brand, because they're the same brand, but you're getting something more than just a different brand for your money here. The AS400 is essentially an upgraded version of the SMSL Raw HA1. And that immediately makes it a great budget speaker amp. I've recommended the Raw HA1 more times than I can think about over the last 6 months or so. In fact, for ages now, if you've watched any of my other budget speaker amp reviews, the Raw HA1 is the reference that all other budget amps have to reach to. In the AS400, SMSL have delivered the exact same levels of performance, in fact, perhaps even just a little bit better. And that's if you're using it as a speaker amp, which is its main focal point. My biggest criticism of the Raw HA1, and probably my only criticism of it, was that its headphone output was absolutely dreadful. That seems to have been fixed on the AS400 because the sound quality of its headphone outputs is now pretty close, not as good, but pretty close to what you get from the SMSL DO400. Remembering the DO400 is a dedicated DAC and headphone amp for a chunk more money. But more than just having an improved and therefore usable headphone socket, the AS400 also delivers a brand new feature and a very useful feature in the form of a built-in phono preamp stage. The Raw HA1 didn't even have that. The phono stage in the AS400 is designed for moving magnet cartridges only, but that probably makes sense because moving magnet cartridges are the most common, especially at the affordable end of the market. Now, to deliver the extra functionality, the AS400 is a bit bigger than the Raw HA1, and it means that whilst adding in a phono stage and the inputs to the phono stage, they've also been able to maintain all of the other connectivity from the Raw HA1, which means you've got USB, coaxial, optical, HDMI ARC, and Bluetooth connection still. Oh, and there's also analog RCA inputs, separate from the phono RCA inputs. So if you've got a CD player with RCA out, or maybe a separate DAC that you're using, you can feed that into the AS400 as well and use it just as a pure speaker amp only. And that's a function that it does excel in for the price. And then there's also a subwoofer output if you do want to run a sub as well as your main speakers, but do be aware there's no controls over the subwoofer output. So things like crossover control and the specific level of your sub compared to your speakers does need to get adjusted on the subwoofer. So to be clear, the subwoofer output will increase and decrease volume along with whatever's happening on the volume control of the AS400. But the point is you'll need to match the sound volume of the sub to your speakers before you then let the AS400 take care of the rest. On the negative side, I think the display on the AS400 is a huge step backwards from the lovely display on the Raw HA1, and it does make the AS400 look and feel a little bit cheap, especially when you're going through the menu with the very simple text and highlight design. And so there are still some reasons you might choose the Raw HA1 over the AS400. If you don't need a usable headphone stage or a phono stage, the Raw HA1 I think looks a bit better and is cheaper. If you want those extra features though, if you're going to use a headphone output sometimes, or if you are using a turntable and you want that inbuilt phono stage, the AS400 is a great way to deliver natural, articulate and detailed sound for under $300 for a speaker amp. And once again, I'm not going to do a deep dive into the sound of the AS400 because as I said, it is so close to the Raw HA1. It's maybe a fraction better, but it's very hard to compare them by the time I switch speakers between one amp and the other, get the volumes right and then go back and forth. It's very hard to detail exactly how they differ because they're so similar. And if you're hoping to find out what the phono stage of the AS400 sounds like, I can't answer that for you just yet because I'm not set up with a turntable, but I do have a big review of the Fozzy Audio Luna 3 turntable coming up soon. That's got its own dedicated preamp you can buy from Fozzy Audio, but I'll test that with the AS400 in the Luna 3 review, so be sure to subscribe if you want to catch that one. And so let's wrap all this up with a reminder that I'm going to pin my review of the D60 here at the end in case you want to know what the SMSL DO400 sounds like. That's going to be if you're looking for a great DAC and headphone amp combo at around about the $500 price point. And then I'll also pin my review of the SMSL Raw HA1, which essentially is going to tell you exactly how the AS400 sounds if you're looking for a great speaker amp at around about the $380 mark. And of course, I'll put links to both devices in the description down below so you can click through and read up more if you want to, and of course buy them. But let me stress something. These, both the DO400 and the AS400, are not suddenly the next best thing in audio. These are, at the least, a cosmetic upgrade of a product that we've already seen. And then at most, they're a product we've already seen with a small but significant upgrade in the feature set. Don't make the mistake that I made twice and think that they bring anything truly new or revolutionary to our world in the audio hobby. And so the pinned videos are here at the end for you to get a deep dive on the product that you're most interested in. But for now, peace, love, and music, and I'll see you again soon.